Buongiorno a tutti, benvenuti all'Università Yulm. Questa mattina siamo molto grati a voi e alle vostre famiglie dell'attenzione e dell'interesse che avete ritenuto di dedicare a questo corso di laurea magistrale in Fashion, Communication and Luxury Strategies. Il corso è totalmente offerto dall'Università Yulm in lingua inglese, quindi poi la presentazione sarà in lingua inglese anch'essa. Prenderemo ovviamente domande in inglese o in italiano come preferite. Anzitutto però dobbiamo giustamente cominciare questo nostro incontro con i saluti della nostra magnifica rettrice, la professoressa Valentina Garavaglia, che prego la nostra regia di trasmettere.
Yulm, sono Valentina Garavaglia, sono la rettrice di questa splendida università dove insegno anche storia del teatro e dello spettacolo. Mi fa piacere accogliervi oggi durante il nostro Open Day perché indipendentemente da qualsiasi corso voi deciderete o non deciderete anche di seguire, è importante che conosciate la Yulm perché Yulm è un modo di scegliere come studiare durante gli anni dell'università. Yulm è certamente percorsi formativi tradizionali, corsi di studio, ma che si declinano in aula, si declinano attraverso laboratori, si declinano attraverso didattica residenziale sul territorio in stretta sinergia con istituzioni, con mondo del lavoro, delle professioni, con aziende, sempre sotto la guida dei nostri docenti e degli uffici che col personale tecnico-amministrativo sono davvero vicini alla comunità di giovani che sceglie di trascorrere, credo, davvero gli anni più belli in nostra compagnia. E quindi buon viaggio alla Yulm.
Grazie davvero alla nostra magnifica rettrice. So now we'll switch to English, and please let's move on. Okay, I can do this by myself. Just remembered. Okay, so for those among you that come from different universities, Yulm is still organized in a different way, the way in which Italian university used to be organized from an administrative point of view a few years ago, which means that we have departments, but departments are just for research activities. But the university is really structured around facoltà. I say it in Italian because translating academic words is always very, very tricky. A rector becomes a president and so on and so forth, or in English, a vice chancellor. So this is our facoltà, la facoltà di arti, moda e turismo, and as you can see, we're offering a bunch of bachelor's degrees. One, it's in fashion and creative industries, a very important part of our work at the Facoltà di Arti, Moda e Turismo, which is headed by Professor Massimo De Giuseppe, but we're also offering you a few master degrees. And one of these is indeed Fashion, Communication and Luxury Strategies. We do have two master degrees that are actually offered in English. The other one is Hospitality and Tourism Management, which is a dual degree. It's tricky for us having a dual degree, which would be nice in Fashion, Communication and Luxury Strategies. For something I'd like to stress right away, this is really one of the very few laureate, one of the very few master degrees of this kind available in the whole of Europe. So, you know, it's an experiment in many ways. We are so far quite happy of this experiment, but it's difficult, you know, to find something that matches in different countries. Still, in spite of all of these difficulties, we are trying to offer all of you, all of your colleagues now, and eventually those among you that will decide to go for this degree will be given the same opportunity. We are trying to give you all the opportunity to spend some time abroad as well. So we have now deals with the University of Stockholm, for example. Some students will go there next year for a full semester. We do have a wonderful week-long seminar offered to students at Soup de Luxe, the professional school started by Cartier a few years ago in Paris, and other similar opportunities that we are developing. Still, you know, the great thing about this this master degree, is the fact that, so to say, what in Italian, what in academic Italian, this strange language professors and universities speak, we call internazionalizzazione, internationalization. Here it starts at home. We're very proud, we're very happy that, this is a master degree which is 2 years old. Basically, it's a baby. But in both these 2 years, we have a substantial percentage of students, in one case 30%, in the other case 20%, 25%, roughly speaking, that are coming from abroad. This means that the people you'll meet day by day in class have different backgrounds, different stories, different perspective on a very complicated and fascinating world, which is the world of fashion, the world of luxury, so things that, somehow are shining, and they look so wonderful and beautiful and fascinating and fun. But as you know well, behind anything that looks fun, there is actually a lot of work. And what we try to do in this degree is preparing, is allowing our students to develop the skills and also to develop the mindset, the culture that may make them important part of this environment, which means, of course, not exclusively, and this would be the peculiarity of the kind of master degree we're presenting to you now, not exclusively learning skills. It is very important. It's a very important thing, particularly in this world in which, the ways in which things are communicated effectively change basically, if not day by day, month by month. But also, learning, developing what once upon a time was called a culture, a global perspective, a sensibility that allow your colleague in the near future, and perhaps some of you in a few years, also to do something which is very much needed in today's world, which is thinking outside the box. Now, why getting into this world? Why getting into this degree? Well, some of you may be worried. I am. I suppose my friend Massimiliano Sortino, that you'll know later, is too. Because, after a few years in which luxury seemed to be very, very resilient, if not even anti-fragile, parts of the world economy that could go through difficulties, wars, commercial wars, and apparently, have no problem at all. Now we are in a different situation. In these slides, you can find the findings of a study by Bain Consulting and Alta Gamma that points out that in 2024, the global personal luxury goods market saw its first contraction in 15 years. So it performed very well, including during COVID. But then in 2024, there was a little stop. This doesn't mean that anybody is really expecting the luxury goods market to, walk back in any possible way, but still, the idea is that now we're reaching a stage of stabilization. We're not thinking about big jumps in the next few years. So why getting into this? Is this a bad moment to develop an interest in fashion and luxury? Well, interestingly enough, of course, we do have some bad news, and these bad news are not, so to say, intrinsic. They're not specific to the luxury markets, but they're mostly related with what's happening in the world, with these faces that you all know from TV and newspapers and Instagram, that we associate with a phase of great instability. This is one of the reasons why we stress so much the international and foreign policy elements in this course. But at the very same time, there are other signals. There are things that instead are maybe prompting some hope in the near future. And let me just give you a very banal one. We're in Milan. And we know well that, one of the reasons why you may be considering to study fashion communication and luxury strategy at Ulm is the fact that Milan is a global fashion capital. So a university doesn't exist in a vacuum. Even more important, a university degree doesn't exist in a vacuum itself. So this degree builds upon the great expertise that Ulm developed during years in being really the communication university in the country at least, but also it builds on the fact that basically simply because of geography, simply because of the fact that Ulm is based in Milan, we are allowed to have contamination. We can constantly, sense the risk of what's going on in the city, of what are the new tendency, of what is happening now in fashion and luxury. And when it comes to Milan, we have news like this. Basically, Via Monte Napoleone is now the most expensive avenue in the world. I mean, it's more expensive than Fifth Avenue. It's more expensive than the Magnificent Mile in Chicago. What does it mean? It means what the Milanese among you know well now, which is all of a sudden in the last few years, we became a touristic city. We got strangers, foreigners getting in just for the sake of shopping, of getting into the vibrant atmosphere of Milan, of experiencing what being a fashion capital means. What is driving this? Simply the fact that Milan is a beautiful place to live? Well, we think that the fundamentals of luxury and fashion in the world, let me stress this, in the world, this is not a master degree which is conceived to prepare professionals that will necessarily work in Italy in the next few years. I mean, some of you may like the idea of working next to home. That's totally legitimate. It's very human. And I'm sure your mom and dad would like that. But still, if you're getting into this kind of business, that's not going to be very likely. You may spend some time in Dubai, some time in the US, well, some time in India or China. And so, you cannot learn everything you need just in a university classroom. That's impossible. But what the university classroom needs to teach you is how to be flexible, how to study, how to browse the reality you're facing in order to develop strategies, solutions, and ideas. So why are the fundamentals of this word strong? Well, let's look at this. It is a very famous graph, even though not as famous as it should be. This is the share of population living in extreme poverty, 1979 to 2024. Now, whenever we are browsing the news, we get gloomy. There is always something bad which is happening in the world. There is always some stupid thing which is jeopardizing the future of us all. But at the very same time, if we look at the trend, just think about this. In 1990, roughly speaking, between 35 and 40% of world population was then 5.3 billion people, so basically 1.9 billion people, were living in extreme poverty. In 2024, 800 million people are living in extreme poverty, and the population is 8.2 billion, not 5.3. So population increased, and the number of people being very poor decreased. Now, if you're living right above the poverty cleavage, you're certainly not buying a Ferrari for Christmas. But the important thing here is the trend, is the fact that poverty is diminishing sharply all over the world. And you can see that particularly, and that's a very important thing for the sort of markets you're interested in. When thinking about China, China is the great success story of the last 30 years. It's the place in the world in which poverty was actually smashed over the time. And what you can see here is the percentage of the Chinese population that lives in what we may call the middle class. Now, in 2010, which may look far away to the youngest among you, but I promise, it's not that time ago, okay? in 2010, it was roughly speaking 40%. Nowadays, it's getting close to 50% of the population. So when you enter the middle class, again, you cannot buy a Ferrari for Christmas, but you start, putting your money into goods that are positional, as some people would say, that are status symbol, goods that are not there just to fill your stomach, but that will help you in living a better life, in adding meaning, in shaping your identity in a different way. Likewise, when we see the estimates about the size of the luxury good market in the next few years, you can see, we are on the growing side still. Now, it's not a very sharp trajectory that you see, and one thing which is very important, and these slides tend to hopes to convey this to you, is that luxury markets are very, very different. And the different things are not necessarily one the substitute for the other. It's not that you're not buying a watch, so you're buying a suit. It's not that you're not buying shoes and you're buying an handbag. But still, the fact that the global middle class, the global population, which is happily living a little bit better, is increasing, means that the demand for these goods will increase too. But of course, this is the perspective of the world, and the perspective of the world is very important for us when we care about the future of humanity as a whole. But when it comes to you, the important thing is thinking about the perspective of business, the perspective of your own career. And, here we face many interesting and profound questions. How will fashion and luxury evolve in the coming years? How important is going to be sustainability, for example, in consumer demands? Very important in rich countries, very important in the West. Is it going to be as important in India or China? Well, of course, a question that everybody who's selling something always asks herself is, what consumer really want? How can we assess that? How can we get to the bottom of people's preferences? How can we anticipate them? All of these are the challenges that those engaged in communicating these goods, communicating these services, communicating these experiences will have to face and always face in their life. How do we want to respond to this challenge? Here you see the study plan of the Fashion, Communication and Luxury Strategies master degree. Let me just explain to you, if I may, the logic behind it. So what we wanted to do, what we're trying to do, is providing you with two different things that are a little bit in contrast, but they're not. They're both necessary in our view. On the one end, we think that you need to be as up-to-date as possible when it comes to the means that you will use in your life and your work. So quite a few of our courses are supplied by top professionals like Professor Sortino, who is a very accomplished fashion critic, journalist, podcaster. Some of your teachers will be coming out of companies such as Google, Pomellato, Dolce & Gabbana, Patek Philippe. Have you ever heard about these brands? I suppose so. On the other hand, we think this needs to be complemented by an understanding, particularly of humanities, that may allow you to be flexible, to be creative, to be conversant in the aesthetic and historical language of luxury and fashion. So this is why we do have some business courses like sustainability strategies for luxury and fashion, but we do also have some political science courses like international relations. We do have quite a bit of history and anthropology. We do have, at the very same time, applied courses in communication, journalism, and PR that are supplied by top professionals in that field. The first year is common for everybody in the course, but in the second years you can choose. You need to pick a path forward. One possibility is Global Trends. Global Trends is a series of courses that focus more on fashion on the one hand, but also on the international dimension on the other. I mean, the idea behind this is that there won't be fashion in one country alone in the future. I mean, fashion is a global industry and will stay so. The other possibility is luxury strategies. Now, luxury is a very wide arena. There's a lot into luxury. But the idea is to allow you, to somehow have a taste of how different markets and how different situation works. Alongside your teachers, you're going to be benefiting of a university which is constantly offering its students external speakers, conferences, seminars. Some of these are supplied within your own courses. I mean, just in the last few months, your colleagues that attended fashion communication and luxury strategies have listened once, for example, to the president of Campari Group. They met different couturiers, they visited some ateliers, so very small production, they got to know them. Next week, they're going to be meeting, although online, Paul Smith, the stylist behind the iconic brand. So that's a lot which is offered and supplied. Something is not really in the study plan because it's offered to students in form of workshop or seminars. So for example, in the last semester, there was a very important seminar on food and luxury, a market that fascinates lots of students. And this semester is going to be an interesting, hopefully so, because I'm part of it, workshop on journalism. It's going to be supplied to you and also the other students of our master degree. And now, there's a little welcome video for you all.
Ciao, sono Massimo e vi do il benvenuto nel nostro Ateneo, l'Università Yulm. Nella vita faccio il giornalista e lo speaker radiofonico, ma alcuni anni fa mi trovavo esattamente al vostro posto, impegnato a scegliere il mio percorso di studi. Alla fine ho scelto Yulm, un luogo sempre più connesso al mondo delle aziende, nel quale non troverete soltanto aule e professori, ma anche tante opportunità. Proprio come è successo a me, che adesso faccio il lavoro dei miei sogni. Il nostro campus comprende 7 edifici, un parco e 2 residence, il tutto all'interno di un quartiere dinamico in continua evoluzione, ben collegato alla città e all'Interland. Questi sono gli spazi dove vivrete la vostra carriera universitaria. Abbiamo più di 80 aule dove potete seguire le lezioni, che si svolgono qui, fra questi banchi e non solo. Oltre alle aule tradizionali, in Yulm sono presenti diversi laboratori dedicati al mondo dei media, della comunicazione, dell'intelligenza artificiale, del turismo e ovviamente delle lingue. Qui ad esempio ci troviamo in uno dei laboratori di interpretazione simultanea, dove gli studenti possono imparare il mestiere utilizzando le stesse apparecchiature che troveranno in ambito professionale. Poi naturalmente abbiamo anche tantissimi laboratori, quelli di ripresa cine-televisiva, laboratori dedicati alla progettazione di applicazioni, allo sviluppo di musei virtuali, alla produzione di podcast e ovviamente le aule informatiche. Tutti luoghi pensati per mettervi alla prova e in connessione con il mondo del lavoro. Questa è la nostra linea del tempo, uno dei luoghi che compongono il nostro museo diffuso della comunicazione. E proprio da qui voglio mostrarvi cos'altro potrete sperimentare vivendo appieno il nostro campus. Come avrete capito, Yulm è anzitutto una comunità Una comunità coesa fatta da studenti e docenti che creano connessioni dentro e fuori l'Ateneo, formando una rete di alunni che unisce diversi saperi e diverse menti per creare opportunità, fare impresa, entrare con il piede giusto nel campo professionale. Non è facile descrivervi in pochi minuti cosa significhi essere stato uno studente Yulm, ma dato che siete qui con noi avrete sicuramente modo di scoprirlo. Benvenuti nella nostra università, benvenuti in Yulm.
By the way, the timeline is just next door. It's well worth visiting, also because it will give you a perspective on our approach to communication, which is, I may say, if I may say so, it's an holistic approach. You'll see plenty of stuff is considered in the global history of communication, so to say, over there. But also, just in this building, I strongly recommend you don't go home before paying a visit to the wonderful Leonardo exhibition with 3 pages of the Atlantic Code by Leonardo. It's quite exceptional, actually, and he's here for a few weeks, but do it today because you're already here. And also here and in the back, you've got 2 great sculptures, one by Joe Pomodoro and the other one by Emilio Esgro. All of this thing, I think, suggest how much our university care about providing students with a very good environment in all the possible meanings of the word good. It's a very serene environment. Students are really at the center of the way in which this university conceives itself, but it's also a pleasant, a nice environment full of opportunities and stimuluses, because we really believe you're actually paying us quite a honor by spending, as our rector has said before, the best year of your life, hopefully, with us here. And now it is my pleasure to give the floor to Professor Massimiliano Sortino, who is a very accomplished fashion critic, journalist, podcaster, you name it. But is also our professor of fashion narratives. Please, Massimiliano.
Thank you for having me. And I want to start just to talk about myself and my background. So, as Alberto said, I'm a journalist, I'm a fashion critic. I work, I think, since more than 20 years in fashion. I just started at Vogue Italia, create with Franca Sozzani the website of Vogue Italia. And I was close to her until she passed away. And after that, Condé Nast, that is this incredible published company, super famous with, how can I say, I'm attached to Condé Nast like a family. So it's a part of my life. They asked me to just take care of the communication of the published company. So with all the title, GQ, Vogue, Vanity, La Cucina Italiana, Traveler, AD, Interiors, a lot of titles. After that, I was working for a big luxury brand. And after that, I was in love for podcast. I was in love for podcasting in a way to create a podcast. And my first podcast was, is still, because now we are like at the 3rd season, that is called Fashion Files, I Fetici della Moda, is in Italian. The other person, the other host is Luisa Simonetto, the editor-in-chief of Amica. And so I just also, I work a lot because in fashion because I love fashion. This is the first things to understand. And what else? I'm working also for How to Spend It, that is the magazine of Il Sole 24 Ore. I work for a lot of independent magazine like The Good Life or The Magazine and so on. And also I'm the professor of fashion narrative. What is fashion narrative? Fashion narrative is is a narrative and is the soul of the brand. Ho fatto, ok. Ah, ok, fantastic. This is more beautiful to understand. It's perfect. Okay. The soul of the brand, it's really important to understand exactly which is the soul of the brand, but most of it is really important to understand the messages that fashion designer, luxury brand, fashion house, they want to deliver to new clients. They want to deliver through shows, through windows, through social communication as well. So in my course, the most important part is, let's say, that is divided in two main parts. The first one is focus on luxury. And what is luxury today? Luxury is evolving so much, is changing so much. Luxury is not only, you know, brand like Chanel and Hermes, Loro Piana, is not only quite luxury. Luxury today is an experience. Luxury today is moving from the world of fashion to the world of fine dining, resort, hotel. So it's completely changed. And this, I think, is important if you want to work in the fashion system. If you want to work for a luxury brand, you have really to understand how quick the luxury is evolving. At the same time, fashion is evolving more quick than luxury. Luxury, in a way, is timeless. Fashion, not. Fashion is changing so much, and really, really, believe me, so quick. For fashion, these 2 years, let's say that there were hard times. You know, a lot of brands decide to change the creative director. I just was attending the last shows, the last Fashion Week in Milan and Paris, and I think I was invited to 11, 12 big debut from different fashion designer. When Alberto asked me to come, it's my first open day, so let's say that, you know, my idea, it was just to talk about something that just happened in a way, you know, 2 weeks ago, that for fashion is like, you know, ages when you're talking about fashion. But I think, you know, this kind of thing, and to talk about the haute couture, the Paris haute couture, and just to see with you 3 different messages, 3 different design, 3 different narrative of the most interesting shows of haute couture. So I choose, there were, as you know, haute couture is in Paris, of course, and there is a week dedicated to haute couture. So you can imagine that there are like 7, 8 shows per day. I choose only the, let's say, the best in a way, but the most, not even fascinating, but interesting. So I choose, of course, Valentino, Alessandro Michele, that is the creative director of Valentino. He was also a guest here at Ulm, and he presented his new book. And if you want to read this book before come to my lesson, I will appreciate. No, it's really interesting. After that, Chanel with Matthew Blasi and Dior by Jonathan Anderson. So these 3 designers, they just, let's say that they just evolving the heritage of the brand, of the house, of the maison, as you prefer, in a completely different way. the Valentino one, of course, with Alessandro Michele, that let's say that it's one of the most visionary talent. Of course, what he just made for Gucci in 10 years. He completely transformed Gucci, that it was like, an heritage, a brand, with a big heritage, and after it just come to a sexy brand with Tom Ford. And after that, Alessandro completely transformed Gucci like, how can I say, an iconic brand, no? So, let's go back to the Valentino by Alessandro Michele. First of it was incredible, I think, how he presented this collection, because he used this kind of Kaiser panorama, that it's something, the models just come, and the people that the press and clients, they can see, the model through a little window. And this, I think, it was incredible. He wants really the idea of Alessandro, we talk about it after the show, it was that he wants that people just concentrate on details. And if you consider how we are living now, we are on social media all the time. We scroll so much. At the end of the day, we don't even remember what we saw. Okay, we just have our idea, but we didn't remember exactly what we saw, On the social media, Alessandro really wants to focus on details. And I think that the narrative was incredible. First of it, because he paid a big homage to the founder, that he was passed away like 3 or 4 days before. And the second one was this interpretation of glamour of the Hollywood from the 20s. So, all these things together, I think they just worked so good for this collection, and from my point of view was really an haute couture collection. The second one, I go? Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Is Dior. Why Dior by Jonathan Anderson? First of it, because Jonathan Anderson is one of the most loved creative director from press, from clients, also for Gen Z, for millennials. And I think, before, it just transformed Loewe, that it was like the Spanish Hermes. So, of course, a big brand that is focused about artisanal product, luxury products, is really transformed so good. But at the end, now is the creative director of Dior. So, the narrative of Jonathan Anderson, time to time, I'm sorry, I just call the designer only by name and not with the surname. The idea is this one, is just decide to spend time inside of the archives of the Maison Dior. Everybody knows Christian Dior, of course, but a lot of people, they don't know exactly the story of Christian, and they don't know that Christian was working only for 10 years, So you just work for 10 years and you deliver like a lot of models, like, the bar jacket, the coral skirt, and Jonathan decided just to reinterpret these iconic pieces in a modern way. The last one is Chanel. Okay, when you say Chanel, there is nothing else to say, with the new creative director that is Mathieu Blazy. Mathieu Blazy, if you know something about fashion, was the creative director of Bottega Veneta. He transformed Bottega Veneta from a fashion brand to a luxury brand. I don't want to just talk about the big intrecciato of Bottega Veneta because everybody knows. If you don't know, I have also a podcast on it, but it's another things. And Chanel, was the first collection, the first haute couture collection from Matthew Blasi, and he really decided to return to this kind of minimalistic way of the Coco Chanel, the founder essence. Let's say that, it was really a collection where he tried, to give, he succeeded, of course, to give this kind of importance to women that they live, in this time. So it just deliver beautiful dresses, but they are dresses, to go out, not only to go to an event or not only, just to go to an important dinner. So let's say that, I move this? No, the other way. Okay, let's go to the career opportunities. I hope so that my lesson just concentrate in 10 minutes. It's really working for you and you find it interesting. But let's go to the career opportunities. Why is important to understand if you decide, of course, to work in the fashion system, which opportunities do you have? First of it, you can become like a fashion content and strategy specialist. So let's say that you are taking care of the brand voice on digital and social platform. Other opportunity is to become a brand heritage manager, so you just work with the archives. Just think that all the big brands now, they are focusing on archives. Hermès, Prada, Dolce & Gabbana. So they are looking for this kind of professional that they are taking care about the archive. And I think also archives are incredible because they tell all the story behind of a brand. The third one, creative copywriter and editor. That is, I think, more close to what I'm doing. So you can work, for fashion publication, you can work for independent publication, you can become a fashion critic. Also, public relation and communication manager. This is, I think, one of the most interesting opportunity because, you tell the brand story and values to journalists, to creative, to journalists, first of it, of course, but also, to content creator. You are taking care about the celebrities. Celebrities also, there are, something new that fashion fashion now is focused only about celebrities, let's say, we have to admit. So the last one is trend forecaster and narrative consultant. And this, I think it's also really interesting because you just find trends. So, this is a really important and big opportunity. And let's say that in this case, you will work more with images, but, you can anticipate trends. I think
I think
just explain everything.
Well, something is left for the master degree, actually. But, you gave us a wonderful, thank you so much, Massimiliano, a wonderful glimpse on your course and really on the spirit. Plus, on the top of it, I told you before that, this is kind of a two-soul degree. So one is professional fashion luxury, one is in the humanities. And I suppose that's best epitomized by the different way in which we dress. It looks like it just jumped out of The Devil Wears Prada. I don't. These are some of the other job opportunities, some of the other possibility for people finishing this degree we thought about. They're not all, because we also know that it's very likely that by the time you finish your degree with us, new possibilities, new opportunities, new job title will have risen. But we are very happy of the way in which this is going after 2 years, including the feedback of students and the way in which they are living through this opportunity. Now, we do have, I think, a video on ULM services, and later we will have our alumni and our career support office to provide you with some other information.
Ciao, sono Natalia
E io sono Matteo.
e oggi siamo qui per presentarvi alcuni dei servizi offerti dall'Università Yulm.
Esatto, perché Yulm è un ateneo che non solo vi offre grandi opportunità di studio, ma anche una serie di servizi che vi accompagneranno nel vostro percorso. Venite con noi!
Siamo nell'ufficio orientamento, tutorato e counseling ed è qui che noi studenti possiamo interfacciarci con l'università per ottenere un supporto al nostro percorso di studi. Con Yulm noi studenti non siamo mai soli. Se abbiamo dei dubbi sul metodo di studio, se desideriamo qualche consiglio sulla stesura della tesi o abbiamo bisogno di un supporto per il nostro benessere emotivo, questo spazio offre percorsi di assistenza sia con professionisti e psicologi che con peer tutor, studenti senior come me e Matteo che vi aiuteranno ad entrare con il piede giusto nel mondo dell'università. Sempre in questo spazio troviamo l'ufficio Diversamente, che promuove accoglienza e inclusione per studenti neurodivergenti con disabilità e esigenze particolari, attraverso servizi di supporto personalizzati.
In Yulm diamo grande importanza alla mobilità internazionale, ossia tutti quei programmi che ci consentono di trascorrere un periodo di studio all'estero. Il nostro ateneo offre numerose opportunità, dai più noti programmi internazionali come l'Erasmus e l'Exchange, fino ai corsi di laurea double degree, che permettono di ottenere 2 titoli di studio, ossia una laurea italiana e una laurea ottenuta nel paese dove ha sede l'università partner. Per tutte queste possibilità è sufficiente rivolgersi all'ufficio Study Abroad.
E dopo la laurea, in Yulm veniamo seguiti dal Career Service, che si occupa di metterci in contatto con il mondo del lavoro, offrendo stage e tirocini in Italia e all'estero, ma anche fornendo un servizio di supporto all'inserimento professionale, aiutandoci a redigere il curriculum, organizzando career day e incontri con le aziende, preparandoci ai colloqui e valutando il nostro percorso di studi, per aiutarci a compiere la scelta giusta.
In ogni caso, sia che deciderete di trascorrere del tempo all'estero che di completare il vostro percorso universitario interamente in Yulm, il nostro ateneo ha tanto altro da offrirvi. Qui ci troviamo in un luogo che solitamente non vedete, siamo negli archivi della nostra biblioteca. Abbiamo a disposizione un patrimonio di oltre 300.000 elementi, tra libri, film, giornali e registrazioni audio, ma questi spazi sono praticamente invisibili a noi studenti, perché la nostra biblioteca dispone di un sistema di prestito e riconsegna all'avanguardia, nonché di un sistema di prestiti digitali che ci permette di consultare testi online e di vedere film in streaming.
E infine non possiamo non mostrarvi alcuni dei servizi dedicati a migliorare la nostra qualità della vita qui in Yulm. Il nostro campus dispone di 4 diversi punti di ristoro, di spazi di aggregazione dedicati allo studio di gruppo e di luoghi dedicati al benessere dello studente, come ad esempio Yulm Fitness Center, la nostra palestra, o luoghi di inclusione come l'hub di Yulm Sport e la nostra nursery.
E per chi viene da fuori città, Yulm ha a disposizione 2 residence riservati agli studenti, il Residence Santander situato all'interno del nostro parco e quello in cui mi trovo adesso, il Residence Moncucco, che è ubicato a pochi passi dal campus e che occupa gli spazi di una tradizionale cascina milanese del 1600 che la nostra università ha completamente restaurato.
Questi sono solo alcuni dei servizi che Yulm offre ai studenti.
Esatto, perché le opportunità che troverete nel nostro campus sono davvero tante, dai laboratori linguistici del nostro International Language Center ai servizi di diritto allo studio e pari opportunità, che potete approfondire nella sezione Vivere Yulm del nostro sito web.
Allora, che altro dire? Vi aspettiamo in Yulm!
Calling to the floor Alessandra Pilia from our Alumni Association. I just wanted to ask you if you happen to have any questions. But, you know, you can also hold on them and ask them later. Alessandra Pilia.
Thank you. Good morning. I apologize, but today I will speak in Italian, and the reason is noi siamo divisi in 2 anime. Yulm Alumni è l'associazione dei laureati e dei diplomati. Abbiamo una sede in Italia molto forte, che è qua a Milano, e stiamo aprendo i nostri chapter internazionali. Quindi io seguo principalmente l'aspetto italiano, mentre il nostro presidente, che è appunto un esperto e lavora nella moda, e il direttore marketing Slower Italia, segue la parte internazionale. Da settembre Lanceremo anche il primo chapter a New York, seguito da Nadia Carta, che è una nostra laureata che lavora in Google. Perché è nata l'associazione degli alunni? Per cercare di supportare tutti noi in una staffetta generazionale e non lasciare nessuno solo nella sua carriera. Yulm è una casa, è la casa di tutti noi laureati, dove vi ritroverete a vivere le emozioni più importanti del vostro percorso universitario. Avrete qui la possibilità di conoscere delle persone che vi rimarranno nella vita per sempre, sia al lato personale sia al lato professionale. Cosa intendo? Ci sono dei momenti della vita in cui vi ritroverete a comprendere che le relazioni sono uno degli asset principali che sviluppate nel vostro lavoro. Quindi la possibilità di chiamare Alessandra, Laura o Giorgio un vostro amico è fondamentale, perché avrete la possibilità di avere un'interazione con lui anche nel mondo del lavoro molto più facile. Motivo per cui abbiamo creato anche un gruppo che si chiama Ambassador, che sono i laureati che hanno dei profili eccellenti e che si trovano sia a lavorare in Italia che nel resto del mondo. Per questo motivo a poco creeremo questi chapter, dove vi potrete ritrovare ad andare nel momento in cui magari vi state facendo un'esperienza all'estero, oppure semplicemente siete lì in vacanza e volete interagire con qualcuno, o magari avete delle necessità di business da fare nel vostro lavoro. Ma soprattutto nel momento in cui siete degli studenti avete la possibilità di capire quali sono i profili professionali che avrete nel corso della vostra carriera, tenendo presente che lì è solo un inizio. Perché in realtà la formazione continua che potete fare anche in Yulm, perché chiaramente c'è la scuola di comunicazione, oltre chiaramente alle lauree magistrali, sarà un continuo esperimento di sapere. Quindi tutto quello che voi vedrete all'interno di Yulm Alumni sarà una catena che vi accompagnerà in questa formazione continua e nel mondo professionale. Quindi la possibilità di, io amo dire surfare, nel senso guardare quello che siete oggi per cercare di capire cosa farete domani, oppure allo stesso tempo sarete voi a raccontare a noi come cambia il mondo della comunicazione, il mondo del marketing e di tutte le altre materie che studierete. Uno degli aspetti principali che potete avere in Ateneo è proprio quello di avere una multidisciplinarietà, quindi la possibilità di capire i problemi e analizzarli sia da un punto di vista, diciamo, tipico, che è quello del marketing e della comunicazione, ma attraverso l'interazione con i docenti e anche con gli alunni, poi quello di poter creare il vostro punto di vista, il vostro senso critico, per poi andare avanti nella carriera cambiando. Perché se c'è una cosa che abbiamo visto all'interno di Yulm Alumni è il fatto che nessuno di noi ha seguito un percorso di carriera lineare. Cosa intendo? Che sicuramente le competenze che avete sviluppato in Ateneo sono strategiche e vi saranno utili sempre, ma avete la possibilità di apprendere tante cose, di essere dei generalisti o di essere verticalisti, e questo è impagabile. Mi soffermo un attimo sul progetto Ambassador. Siamo 180, lavoriamo in tutte le materie, in tutti gli ambiti e in tutti i settori, come quello chiaramente del fashion di cui hanno parlato i nostri straordinari professori. Questo cosa vi consente? Di interagire con loro nei momenti in cui facciamo degli incontri. Organizziamo dai 3 ai 5 incontri all'anno di tipo conviviale, quindi dove voi potete proprio interagire sia con gli ambassador che gli altri soci, e dei momenti di tipo più formativo e informativo, dei convegni. Abbiamo parlato di intelligenza artificiale, abbiamo parlato di sostenibilità. Quest'anno parleremo del fallimento e del successo. In Italia il successo non si perdona a nessuno, si dice, quindi andremo a capire come cambiare anche nel corso della professione, per cercare di capire che le cadute molto spesso sono solo un nuovo punto di inizio, e quindi anche lì andremo ad interagire sia con ambassador che con altri speaker. Un altro aspetto molto importante è che Yulm Alumni è uno sportello sempre aperto, quindi se avete delle curiosità, delle necessità, se avete dei progetti da proporre come alunni, noi siamo qui, e soprattutto vi ricordo la possibilità di chiedere un confronto, una sorta di mentorship, chiamiamola così, in modo che così abbiate uno scambio continuo con la possibilità di capire che cosa siete, che cosa volete fare e quali sono le opportunità. Quindi il network relazionale che vi accompagna in una staffetta generazionale. Io vi ringrazio, lascio la parola a Giorgio.
Grazie mille Alessandra, continuo in italiano perché mi farebbe un po' ridere tornare a parlare inglese, un po' back and forth, un po' strano, però vi ha ricordato una cosa importantissima, cioè da una parte l'università è fondamentale anche per sviluppare il vostro network, ma dall'altra, come sa qualsiasi docente che sia onesto con se stesso, voi imparate altrettanto dai vostri compagni di quanto imparate dai professori. E per questo una delle cose molto importanti di questo corso di studio è la sua composizione plurale, internazionale, che consente quindi di entrare in contatto, anche semplicemente andando al bar, con prospettive diverse dalle proprie. Ora, questo vi consentirà di laurearvi e poi lavorare come Christian Dior solo 10 anni e dopodiché più felicemente vivere di rendita per il resto della vita, non lo so, ve lo auguro molto. Nel caso fosse così, ricordatevi della vostra università con una cospicua donazione. Però la cosa importante è che voi dovreste in questi anni, attraverso il corso, attraverso gli incontri all'atere del corso, attraverso gli incontri in università, attraverso gli incontri con i vostri pari, con gli altri studenti, avere da una parte un po' il sapore di quello che possono essere questi ambiti professionali e dall'altra acquisire quelle competenze, ma anche quelle idee, quella sensibilità, perché qui stiamo parlando di lusso e di moda, quindi stiamo parlando di cose che sono intrecciate con la sensibilità estetica individuale e collettiva di gruppi e di persone, che vi consentono poi di navigare un mare molto spesso periglioso. Prima di cedere la parola al nostro Career Support Office, questa è una laurea e questa è una cosa da ricordarci sempre, cioè l'impegno richiesto è sempre e comunque quello dell'università, con le sue difficoltà. Ci saranno dei corsi che non vi piacciono, ci saranno dei corsi che non vi interessano, ci saranno dei corsi che sono difficili. Molto probabilmente sono i corsi che tra qualche anno sarete più grati di aver fatto e sarete più contenti di aver frequentato, perché, come dire, altrimenti andreste a una serie di conferenze sui temi di vostro interesse, vedreste una serie di video YouTube. Invece c'è sempre come parte del percorso universitario anche questa dimensione della sfida con se stessi, ma che poi diventa anche alcuni appuntamenti non sempre piacevoli come sono gli esami, non sempre piacevoli ma necessari. Laura Gariboldi.
Grazie a tutti, continuiamo in italiano. Lascio la parola al dottor Giorgio Verri che vi dà qualche indicazione.
Grazie molte Laura, grazie professori, è un piacere per me essere qui oggi. Professore, prima di chiudere chiediamo se ci sono anche domande, in ogni caso salutiamo altrimenti gli ospiti che ci hanno seguito in streaming e ringraziamo anche per aver partecipato e noi invece continuiamo qui in